go. Okay, what's up guys? I am just doing a video. Honestly, I don't necessarily have a purpose for this video other than I have a lot of things to test out here. So basically, I have a couple of projects that I'm doing. I have a podcast coming up and that's why I'm testing my audio. I have to start a vlog, so I'm testing my GoPro. And I don't really have any other way to figure out how I'm going to do this stuff other than to just test it out and post it on YouTube and learn how to use YouTube again. And I don't know. So basically, this is going to be kind of like your standard YouTube camera gear 2020 situation going on. Because I feel like people like looking at that type of stuff. And since I'm new to YouTube, I might as well start with like the easiest way to get these things going. So I think what I'm going to do is start out with my digital equipment first, and then I'll go into my film equipment because I think that's what people are also interested in. So to kick things off, this is my Canon 5 DSR. Super simple. This is what I ride my bike with, which is mostly what inspires me to shoot. I shoot a lot of things, you know, family, weddings, all that type of stuff as well. I live here in the Bay Area. I don't think it really matters to take off this cap, but that's what that looks like. Is the battery still in there? Yes, that means I can flip up this sensor eventually. Not that that matters, because you can't take pictures like that. But 5 DSR, really great camera. It's not the best for cycling stuff, but a while back my old gear got stolen, so I had to replace it, and this is kind of a filler because I think I'm going to get a Canon R5 or R6, being that I already have this high megapixel, and I don't know if this is going to live in my camera family much longer, but I'm kind of debating on if I should go with the R5 and go with the high megapixel camera again, or an R6 and keep this guy because this is a really great camera. I've taken plenty of portraits with it. I love this camera. It's just very slow. This is a studio camera, and I bought that knowing this. So I had to make some adjustments, but I also shoot film, like I said. So this is kind of like the experience is kind of like shooting a film camera versus the digital. As far as when you're shooting action with this, you kind of have to pre-plan your focus and think of it that way, because you're not going to be able to shoot a bunch of shots with this like rapid motion. You're pretty much gonna have to nail it right away, but I've nailed it plenty of times. I will be sharing some footage probably while I'm talking about these cameras, or maybe I'll share it at the end. I'm not sure. But that's the 5 DSR. And then on for the glass. So this is the 35 1.4 version 2. Has this locking hood on there so you can see L series glass. This is the lens. This is what my go-to is. I did have the Sigma beforehand, and the Sigma was great, but the Sigma, along with what I was talking about for the autofocus, the Sigma's autofocus coupled with the 5 DSR is not the best combination, if you will. The Canon 35 is sharper, it's weather sealed, and the biggest deal about the two differences between the camera, because there's a significant price point difference, is that the 35 Canon goes to f/22, where the Sigma only goes to f/16. Now, most people are like, well, I don't even shoot at f/16, so it doesn't matter. If you're shooting motion during the day, and you really want to get like some massive blurs, I'm not talking about 1/60th, I'm talking more like 1/30th, 1/15th, something like that, you need f/22, because your photos would just be completely blown out, which you can fix in post, but I don't like fixing things in post. Digital, I like to underexpose, and film you can overexpose for most of the films, which I'll share those with you too. So the other cool thing is this has the locking hood, which is really great because, like I said, I ride with this camera on my back. So if you were curious, which we're pretty close here with this GoPro, and I don't think this is going to be the best, but that's a big rig to be riding on your back. So having this lock on there, because these things can get loose, which I'll kind of show you. These things can get loose, so the fact that it locks on is really good. So on to the next lens, which I don't have any experience with this lens. This lens is new today. I have shot this focal length before, this system before, but this is the 24-70 version 2 as well. So Canon did very well on their version 2 lenses, except for with the 16-35, but luckily I don't own one of those, so I don't have to worry about that. Also has a locking hood, and it telescopes out. And also this thing locks, which is annoying. Telescopes out like that. This lens, I haven't shot this. I actually got this today, and I don't know how long I'm going to be keeping this, but I am going on a trip to Yosemite. Somebody was selling this lens for a really, really good price. As you guys will know by looking at the date of this YouTube post, we're still in COVID-19, so I've just been sitting at the house. So I've just spent a lot of time on Facebook Marketplace finding amazing deals for a bunch of different things. And yeah, I found this really good price. I have the money to kind of just let it float for a little while, and these lenses go for about $1,200 used, and I got it for much less than that. So I figured, hey, why not give it a shot? And I can play around with it. If I like it, I can keep it, which I think I will like it. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it right away. And if not, I can sell it for roughly $1,200 because it's brand new. So that's a great lens just to be able to get those wides and those kind of medium shots. And so that's that. I actually forgot a lens, but that's okay. I have the 85-1.8, which is a great lens to shoot on the bike. But I think what people really get excited for when we're posting things on our Instagrams are those shots that you just can't get with your iPhone. I think 24-70, you can kind of fake it. You can't really fake a 50 or 70 too well, but you definitely can't fake a 135. So this is 135 f2. I do ride with the hood on the 35, and I would, if I use the 24-70, I would ride that with the hood. The 35 is just such a big lens and heavy already. I wouldn't ride this with this. This thing is massive. It's almost the same. It's almost the same size as the lens itself. So I don't ride with that one. But the shallow depth of field with this, shooting this wide open or at f2.8, you can't fake that when you're on the bike. You know, if you're shooting with your iPhone, you can get great, amazing shots, you know, and post them on Instagram, whatever. But the separation from your subject in the background and the foreground, you're not going to be able to do that with anything, with any type of software or anything compared to the 135. So that's why I really like this lens, and that's why I like having it. Most people would be like, why wouldn't you get a 70-200? That makes a lot more sense. And you're absolutely right. The difference is this lens here, you can find between probably 500 is probably a little bit low, but you can probably find it for $500 now. But 550 to 750, most of the time I would say you can probably find that for about $600 any day of the week, as long as they're available. I'm talking used markets. Everything I buy for glass is used. I don't buy new glass. It's just out of my budget, and for the most part, glass doesn't get any worse unless somebody didn't take care of it. So just inspect it before you give them your money. But you can get great deals, and obviously there's all L series glass, L series glass, L series glass. And you know, it's not a knock if you don't have L series glass. My 85 is not L series, but if you can't get L series, get it, because Canon makes great glass. What they produce and render is great. I think that's it for digital stuff. I have a lot of camera equipment sitting here right off camera, but we can get into the film stuff, which is slightly more exciting. So this is my Canon A-1. So I worked in San Francisco for quite a bit, and I would walk around every single day shooting street photography with this guy. So this is my street photography camera. Really bummed out about this. I still have the back plate to this somewhere. This just says Canon A-1 on it or A-1 on it, and one day it just kind of fell off and it was in my backpack. So kind of bummed about that. But anyway, that's the Canon A-1, and it has, the reflection's probably a little harsh here, and that's threaded on way too tight. You don't have to thread on your filters super tight. But it has that Canon FD50 1.4 SSC. The SSC, to be honest, this is only an aesthetic thing. The FD, or the new FD, is a slightly better lens, and that whole thing I talked about when it comes to f16 and f22, this won't focus, but I don't know how good GoPros are. Anyway, that says f16 right there. It says 16 right there. The new FD goes to f22. Now, I don't shoot a lot of motion blur with on film, and you can get decent motion blur at f16, but like I said, you're only gonna get down to about 1/30th of a second, depending on what film speed you're shooting. Let's assume that you're shooting 100 speed film. You're only going to get down to about 1/30th of a second before you start really overexposing it at f16 on a sunny day. You know, throwing a lot of variables out there. So that's why f22 just, you can get down, you get a little more motion blur, things get a little more interesting, you can get a little more artistic with your process if you're doing that. Anyways, I wanted to go more into this camera. I would like to go more into this camera. Maybe if these types of videos, which is not the types of videos that I plan on doing, to be honest. But maybe if people ask me questions, I have no problem doing more videos. There is film in here, which I'll cover that at the very end. But I do have film in this camera, so I can't really mess around with it too much. However, these are the original FD lenses, so they're breech lock. So they come off like that, and hopefully, it should have been fine. But the thing with breech locks is, I think even just the FD systems in general, excuse me, I'm trying to show you my next lens, is that if you leave the depth of field preview on and you unlock these things, you can kind of jam them. So the way these work, just like the Canon digital, and you can see it's kind of spring-loaded. It'll do it on its own, and it's actually a nice little detail aesthetic. I don't know, but it'll kind of start to lock itself when you push it in. You can see that red dot kind of rotated on its own, and then there you go. So this is the 24 2.8. And also another SSC lens. This is actually a really good lens. So that 1.4 50 mil is a good lens. I would say it's good. This is a very good lens. These ones, I don't remember if I paid $175 for this or $275. It might have even been $250. But this is a great lens. I wish it went down to 1.4. There is a 1.4, but it actually is an L series lens, so just like these guys, but the FD version. So still has this kind of grippy little focus ring there. But the 1.4 version of that is extremely expensive. I was looking at it the other day. It's about $2,500 to $3,000 for a film lens, which, because it's film, doesn't necessarily mean anything, but usually there are very few, especially Canon lenses, that get that expensive. Very, very few, especially when you're talking about the film market. So crazy. So the best you can do for 24 mil is 2.8, which isn't bad. I do wish it had a couple extra stops of light, because this guy here, like I said, is 1.4, and I think I got this guy for about $100 bucks, $120. So it's good. And I get all my stuff. I'm in the Bay Area, if I didn't mention already, and I get all my film stuff from Glass Key in San Francisco, which I'll also try to, I don't know how to do that linky stuff that people do where they put it like right here. I don't know how to do that stuff, but I will put a link somewhere when I learn how to do it. for Glass Key because they're a wonderful like vintage camera store, and they sell basically all film. I don't think they sell any digital stuff. They sell all your paper. They have every single film that you could ever want on a regular basis. They were the first to get what is it? It's called that. Oh my goodness. Now I can't even think. Film Forania. When Film Forania came back out, they're the first ones to get it, which I think when people are they have their eyes on the industry like that, and they're making an effort to supply the community with hard to get products like Film Forania, P90, I think it's called P90, P80. That's really great. So if you're in the Bay Area or you visit the Bay Area at some point when you can travel again, go to Glass Key because they're great people. It's Matt and Gordon, I think. So that is so that's almost that, but whoops, just pulled my mic out. One more FD lens, and then I have another film camera. So this is another guy, and like I said, I think what I'll try to do is maybe I'll show you photos in between the cameras. I don't know, or at the end. Maybe at the end is better. But this is the Canon A-1 width, the FD 70 to 210, so not exactly 200. Same focal length, probably a little bit more accurate on the focal length. Digital cameras, especially when you get into the zooms, the focal lengths can be a little smudgy because of focus breathing and things like that. But this is 70 to 210, so that pump action focus, which is great, I think is super cool, makes life really easy. It's only f4. I wish there was a 2.8 version of this, which to my knowledge there's not. It does go down to f32, which is super crazy, but still great. And it focused macro, so if you can see, down at 70. So the way these things work, that's 70, that's 210. So when you're up at 70, you see how this is yellow. Sorry, I don't know how well this is focusing, but this is yellow here, and macro is yellow. So I can turn it over a little bit more, so you can see that. Versus if I get down to like 100, I can't turn it anymore. But here, I can turn it. You can kind of hear it click. So into like a macro position. So you can shoot macro with this guy, which is wonderful. And before I continue, I have to grab one more lens and have that ready in the background, because I almost forgot about that. So that's the Canon A1. That's completely done. And on to my last film camera, which is my crown jewel at the moment. I think most of us aspire, as far as the 35mm, aspire to have a Leica. But until I get a Leica, here is my Canon VI-T. That's not VIT. It is VIT, but it means 6T. I think Canon's branding back in the 50s was a little nebulous, and I don't have any historical facts on this aside from just a general assumption that I think a lot of people just called it the VIT and it just kind of rolled that way for a long time. Or maybe because this camera was made in like 1958, maybe it's just because it kind of that information got lost in the fray. So when film cameras started getting popular again, maybe people just started calling it a VIT instead of a 6T. It's called a 6T, so we won't go through all the history like a lot of other film channels do, but it started off, I don't even remember where it started off, but there was a Canon 2, a 3, a 4, a 4SB, a 4SB2, a 5, and then a 5, well, to the 5 and a 5L and a 5T. The T's actually to my knowledge, were made first before the L versions. T means trigger. So if you notice, there's no lever. You have a trigger down there. This one doesn't have film, so we can walk through this camera a little bit more. Pull that, press that, and I obviously have a very slow shutter speed selected right now, which didn't sound very accurate. But that is that. And it's a pretty quiet camera. I don't know if that translates super well on my audio system that I'm also testing out through all of this video. But that's this camera. And the cool thing about that is it's like a thread mount. So this bad boy comes out and unscrews, which with another lens. So this is another 51.4. The thing with these is this is more so modeled after the Leica M. All of these Canon cameras and Nikons back in the day, they're all modeled after Leica bodies, even the Canons that I mentioned before. So this is modeled after the M3, and if you guys know, the M3 shoots 50 mil. Like you can get you know, attachments so you can shoot 35 or whatever. Same as this camera. You can shoot 35 with this. It does have frame lines for 35, but when these cameras get old specifically, switching the viewfinder, which won't really be that visible, switching the viewfinder, which is done up here, and you can kind of see how it just kind of rotates over like that. That's not the easiest thing to do, for one. And then it's really, I don't think you're going to be able to see. I can barely see. But I'm not going to be able to make it work. But you can't really see through it in a very clear way. So I just keep it at 50. I don't try to, oh, well, it wasn't lined up that great either. Oh, sorry. I'm trying, guys. But I just keep it at 50 because there's no frame lines at 35. The way you see through it, it's 1:1. So there's no frame lines. It just kind of changes the magnification a little bit. And then there's frame lines for the 50. So this 50 that I just took off, I just got that from Camera West, which is in Walnut Creek. Now, the lens that I bought for this when I got it is another 50. And it's a great lens. I like to have as much light coming in as I possibly can. So just in case I want to shoot some portraits or something, which I don't do on rangefinders, hardly ever, but just in case. So this is the 51.8, which, little story, I'm going to put this one aside. I might bring it back. This lens is not hard to find. This lens is definitely not hard to find. It's not cheap. This was $175, and I think generally speaking, that's about the price that these guys go. But there's a Serenar version of a 50. I don't think it's a 1.8. I think it's a 1.9. Don't totally quote me on that. You also don't see people talk about these cameras too often. So if anybody wants to correct me, great. That'd be awesome, because people don't talk about 6Ts. There's not a lot of videos on these out there. But anyhow, this lens, there's a Serenar 1.9, if I'm not mistaken. This is Canon's first Canon branded 51.8. There's another 51.8, or yeah, 51.8 that looks very similar to this, as far as the build and everything. And this one's really nice. Sorry, I didn't go over this, but this one's really nice because they have, like, those clicks are very nice. And I just like the way this whole thing operates, and it locks out. This one locks out too. But the 51.8, that looks like the lens I just put down. And so there's a few different versions, and it gets a little confusing when you're getting a 1.8. To me, this is definitely the one to get. I haven't shot with that new lens yet because I got that last week, and I haven't walked around with too much film yet, or in the last month or so. So I haven't shot that. But this one I've shot plenty of times, and it is super sharp. Some of my favorite shots are with this camera. Once again, I will post pictures somewhere in this video. I don't know where they'll land. Maybe you've already seen them, maybe you haven't, but they will be somewhere in this video. It'll be a little Easter egg. This lens is great. It goes down to f/16. I think both of these just do f/16. This one might do f/22 actually. Yeah, so f/22. That's another good mark for lenses, is just the fact that it goes to f/22. So that one only goes to f/16, the small one. And so, you know, it has its limits, but generally speaking, with street photography, which I shoot, which you can probably tell, Joel Meyerowitz's book right here, which is a wonderful book. Yeah, it's a great lens, and I have a lot of fun with it. But it's time to move on. It came with this really cool old Canon thing, which I try to make sure that the details always match with everything that I buy. I try not to get too off-brandy, or if something comes with like a half case, which the half case for this is like $75, and I feel like that's a little bit too much for something that's usually, this leather is really dry. So I don't want to buy dry leather for $75 and it's going to crack on me or something. But yeah, it came with this really cool case, and it's got like a little velvety interior to it. So that's where this guy will live for the rest of eternity, because I don't think that I'll use it too much more. The 1.4 has a really great reputation, and so I don't plan on using this one too much more, because I think that for the most part the results should be about the same. So I think before I wrap up, I guess the last thing to talk about is film itself. So I guess we'll start with color, and just because it's the first thing I grabbed, we'll start high and we'll work low. So this Portra 800 is probably my favorite film that I never shoot enough. It's a great film, no problems with it, zero problems with it. Speed is a little high, and that doesn't mean that you can't shoot it. You can shoot. Before I ever ran 800 through this camera or this camera, I thought you can shoot 800 during the day. I thought you would overexpose it, but that's not the case. You can definitely shoot 800 during the day. For the most part, I shoot Sunny 16. So if you're shooting Sunny 16, just keep your camera at 1,000, because you probably don't have 800 on your camera unless you have like a Canon 1V or 1N or EOS 3 or something like that. But keep it at 1,000, and if you're shooting Sunny 16, just adjust your f-stop for the appropriate setting or for the appropriate scenario, and you should be fine. And so that's 800. The colors are amazing. I'll definitely make sure that I can keep this here. I'll definitely make sure that I kind of designate which photo was which. And then of course, the kind of go-to for most film photographers is Portra 400. Easy, super simple, colors are great. The difference between this, I'm gonna misspeak here for sure. Portra 400 still exists as like a bulk roll. This has been updated from an old formula or old recipe to a new recipe, if I'm not mistaken. 800 is antiquated. I don't have a better way of saying it. Imagine these two existed at the same time, 400 and 800. This one got updated. This one I don't think did. And I don't think that you can find, there are codes on these things somewhere, and I don't have a computer in front of me because I have a whole shitload of stuff in front of me right now that I can't find it, but I couldn't look it up right now. But there is a code for all Kodak film. So Portra 400 is like, I'm making a number up, but Portra 400 is like 5235 or something like that, or 5221 or whatever the case may be. What Portra 800 used to be, and so to say that, you can buy a big old bulk of this and just bulk load it. And with Portra 800, to my knowledge, you don't have the same access to it. I'm sure you can bulk load Portra 800, but there's a little difference. I think I might be talking about like referencing it as a cinema film and not a stills film, but that's not necessarily here nor there. This is not the same formula as this. That's why the colors are different, is all I'm getting to, really. Now, if you're good at guessing, Portra 160. This is, elephant in the room is not the right term, but Portra 160 has got to be some of the most underrated film out of all of the Portras that there are, or that there used to be, or have been. this comes off, the blues are very tealy, at least the way I've shot. They've come off a lot more tealy. The colors are more interesting. So as far as interest goes, I like 800 because 800 comes off a little more vintage. And I feel like you can get moodier tones out of this depending on how you shoot. And the photos that I will post will show that. Portra 160 is great for portraits. These are all great for portraits. But great for portraits because it's a slower speed film. And I feel like everything just comes out right and romantic in this. Portra 400 is close your eyes and press the button on your camera. The photo's going to expose and it's going to be fine. I mean, it is so hard to mess up Portra 400. You can underexpose it, you can overexpose it, you can push it, you can pull it, you can do whatever you want with this, and it's always going to come out spot on. You can do that with most portraits. But the colors here and here, to me, are more interesting. And then, I don't shoot black and white too often, but I'm getting a lot more into black and white, and I have some black and white photos to share, so I can do that. You have your triads. So, 400 speed film sits right in the middle. I'm not into black and white enough yet to talk it up too much. Out of HP5, which I do have in my backpack somewhere, out of HP5, T-Max, and Tri-X is my favorite by far. It just comes out with the results that I've had the best that I can imagine them being. So I got to keep shooting it, and hopefully this video didn't get too long. It's already at 30 minutes, but thank you for watching. The rest will just follow up with a bunch of photos. Take care. Bye.